Awesome. Well, welcome everybody. It is day 10 of our Shred 10. I think, well, at least everybody on this call is done, right? Because it's 7:30. So, well, no, Dakini, maybe you're not completely done yet. You still got maybe a couple of hours to go before you could be done, but we are at the tail end of our Shred 10, and I love doing these calls. Amanda usually runs these every month, but she's actually on her way to Sacramento. And so I'm running the call this month, which I love. And we're just here to celebrate all of you for finishing up the shred, which is awesome. So I know that there are, so many other different programs out there, different detoxes, all this other kind of stuff. So we're really happy that you guys have said yes to trying up the shred and just kind of going for it, right? Because we really never know, especially when it's your first shred, you don't really know what to expect and what you're getting into. And, those first couple of days, some people are like, what am I doing? This is crazy. But in the end, we always have these amazing results that we love to hear from everybody. And, it's not an easy thing to do. It's not an easy thing to come in and, eliminate all of these foods that you're used to eating and eliminate caffeine and coffee that you're used to having every morning or even that glass of wine on the weekend. So a big round of applause to everybody who completed the Shred 10. I know I have my tea. That's what I've got. So I'm doing a cheers with my tea tonight to all of you. So congratulations. And I think what we want to do is we just kind of want to get some stories from everybody and some results from what the shred did for you. And I know we've got one person on the call, Justine, it's your first shred. And then we've got people on their second and their fourth and stuff like that. So we can kind of go around, see who wants to share. And then we're going to talk about the next steps after. And then if anyone has any questions or anything like that, we can kind of go from there. So Justine, do you want to start since it's your first shred? Tell us what it's all about. You can tell us who introduced you to the shred, why you said yes, and what you found and what your results were.
Sure. I'll start. I actually started the shred a week before I got all my products. I know that sounds a little weird, but I started doing I started the gluten-free months before, and I actually cut out the dairy a week before I got my products, and started finding results that week. I started seeing a lot of results just doing it that week, just cutting out the dairy and the gluten-free. And I think I lost 10 pounds total just within the week. And I actually didn't weigh myself yet, so I don't know how much I lost completely within the 2 weeks, but I know I lost at least 10 pounds. And I definitely did it for the right reasons, because I have a lot of medical problems, and I have a bladder condition, and I have fibromyalgia. So I have a lot of things that I feel eating healthy and changing my lifestyle. I feel like this will really help me in the long run. I do feel that there's a couple of things that are more difficult, like cutting out the caffeine. I find that's really hard to do. And like you said, having that glass of wine, on the weekend or something, I find that those things are definitely hard to do. But in the long run, I can see, like you said, the results, and I feel like it's definitely good all around for my body. So I'm happy that it's helping for sure. I did run into a little bit of problems with the fruit and vegetable pills with my bladder condition. I have interstitial cystitis, and I found out they were making me pee a lot because I have to cut out a lot of fruits with that condition, and I did find that it was making me have that frequency. But instead of taking the 2 pills as Megan suggested, just to try taking one pill a day. And I went to that, and I've been doing okay with that. So I've been doing that instead, and been finding that that's been helping instead.
Awesome. Awesome. That's amazing. And yeah, I mean, with having, anything like an autoimmune, anything like that, just fueling your body with the right foods and fueling your body with tons of plants, it's only going to do amazing things for you. And we know Juice Plus is, scientifically proven to reduce inflammation, and inflammation is what can cause things like fibromyalgia and things like that. So, and you're only on your first 10 days, right? So,
Right.
already seeing that these positive results now, think about how you're going to feel 4 months from now, 8 months from now, a year from now. It only gets better, that compound effect of fueling your body with lots of good things, and you're just going to start to feel so much better. And it's great that you were able to kind of pull back to do the 1 capsule a day. And then you might find that, eventually as your gut heals more, that you can build back up to that full dose, at some point too. So
Right.
that is awesome. And I know the caffeine can be really hard for people, especially when you're used to it, but it's, it's what we're used to, right? When we're used to putting caffeine into our bodies every day, having coffee every day, we kind of start to crave that. And then when we start to kind of feel tired, we're like, oh, I need a cup of coffee. And, that's the same thing. Again, it's what your body's used to. So you might find, when you're off of it for a while, my husband and I have now been off caffeine, I think for like 11 years now. And, but we don't have it anymore. Our bodies aren't used to it. So our bodies have learned to fuel and have energy from food. But in the beginning, it was really hard because we would always kind of want that. So it does take time. So be patient with yourself. Always give yourself some grace, because you made all of these amazing steps leading up to that, which is just so great. So that is awesome.
I went from because I used to have espressos, lattes, and I weaned myself down. I went from doing from the latte down to a regular coffee, and then I went to half calf, and then I went to decaf, and then eventually to none. So
that's awesome. That's amazing. Congratulations. That's great.
And then I put almond milk in it instead of skim milk. So
Yep. Wonderful. Yep. And just, you just keep going at it and keep making those steps, and you're just going to start feeling better and better, which is great. So congratulations.
Thanks.
I know we just had a few other people. Hi, Kelly. How are you? Laura. Is that my Laura on there?
Which Laura?
Laura Tumas?
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, okay. And then the 978 number. I don't know who do you want to tell us who's on here? 978 number?
It's Damaris.
Who is it?
Damaris, Dami.
Dami, you're on there twice. I gotcha. Mm-hmm. So we were just kind of starting to share stories. Laura, I know you just did, which was it, your second shred?
Third
shred.
Yeah.
This is your first call that you've been on, and you said this was your best shred so far. Do you want to share a little bit about your story?
Sure. I mean, I have a snacking thing. I like to snack. So even though I eat pretty healthy, I like to snack, and I feel like this time was definitely easier from that aspect. I mean, awesome. I tried to find better snacks, and unsalted almonds, and I mean, I'm a pretty healthy eater, but I definitely need food during the day. So that was kind of hard for me. So this time was better. The caffeine was better too. I didn't get the headaches this time around.
Awesome. And what was your original reason for wanting to do the shred?
I mean, I just hate that extra 8 pounds on me. And I mean, the sugar I know is a killer for me because I love sugar. So just, being able to get that off. And I mean, I got most of it off. I mean, I probably have a few more to go that I would love to get off. And now it's just going to be staying at that weight for me. And so just not eating sugar is a huge thing for me. Not grabbing, like on the weekends, it's hard for me. Like, you go out, you're with people, I just want to like, and I'm not good with like portion control. So if I'm like at a party, I just like keep eating all that stuff that I love that I don't eat during the week,
Mm-hmm.
So I just have to stay on it because I finally saw like some good results,
That's awesome. Yeah. And sometimes it takes 1, 2, 3, 4 shreds to really start to get into that groove and, find what works for you. And then eventually the more shreds you do, you're like, oh, this is a little bit easier this time. And oh, it was even easier this time. And then eventually it can become your norm, right? Where it's just, you don't go for those snacks that you usually go for, or you go for something healthier, or you go to a party and you're like, I don't need to eat all that food because I don't want to feel yucky after.
Exactly.
And so you start to make those choices rather than, a lot of people feel like I go to a party, I need to eat food. Whereas like now when I go to a party, I think, okay, it's the people that I'm surrounded by. That's the reason why I'm here at this party. It has nothing to do with the food. It's me wanting to spend time with all of these people. So it's just a different mindset, but we've all been there. And a lot of us are still there, Even me, after many years, I go to a party and I'm like, oh, you want to eat this stuff. And sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. So it's getting to that point where you feel like you can make those choices and not feel guilty about it or anything like that. So that's wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you.
We'll just get better and better. So I love also hearing from people that have done multiple that just find that each time it's, it gets a little bit easier. So that's great.
It definitely is.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Corey, I know this is your second shred. Do you want to share how your second shred went versus your first one? And tell us what your original why was and then.
Sure. My original why was also just trying to become healthier, not even just for myself, but my family, trying to get them on board as well. The first shred actually seemed a little easier. This one was a little harder, only because I think just with stress and working a lot, definitely meal prepping was key. Definitely having that already set and ready. But definitely probably a little bit harder. Probably because I don't even know. We're just trying to focus on what I'm eating or what I shouldn't be eating, making sure that wasn't in the house. Just definitely with working so much, just trying to make sure that I have everything prepped and ready, because that definitely is key to have that at hand. So especially when you're coming home late and something's already in the fridge, so you can have that and grab, so you're not trying to figure out what you're going to eat and then just eating something that, you shouldn't be. So I think that is definitely the key to it, or the hard part even. But other than that, I do love it. I love how I feel so much better. The more energy, less bloating, just the all around feeling good.
Awesome. Yeah. And I think for a lot of us, feel that energy, right? That burst of energy towards, especially maybe not at the beginning because we're going through that detox a little bit. And then we kind of get over that hump and we're like, oh, here it is. Here's the energy. So that's great. And you're right. Prep is key. Prep is totally key because, in normal life, we've kind of all been used to, if we're busy or we work late or, we do whatever, it's like, oh, let's order a pizza or let's just get takeout or, so if you don't have that food prepped, it definitely is hard. But it's, it's a doable thing too. So I think that too, just like, we were talking about with Laura, each shred getting easier and easier. I think as you meal prep more and more, it becomes easier and easier. And you might not meal prep every single week, but you might get to the point where you're so used to eating clean that you have more clean foods in your house than, junk foods or non-clean foods, that it's easier to make a meal out of what you have versus having to go out and get takeout or something like that. So I think it just becomes more natural to eat cleaner as time goes on. And again, I always tell people this is a journey, right? It's not an overnight fix. It's not something that we fix in 10 days or anything like that, but it's kind of a continuous journey, and making these small little changes, each time, that compound effect eventually leads to these huge changes. And all of a sudden one day you're like, oh my goodness, like, look what I'm doing. I'm eating clean all the time. And I don't want to go to the party and eat all the junk food or, anything like that. So that's awesome. And some shreds will be easier some months than other months. Even for me, almost 3 years later, I have some months where I rock a shred and other months where I'm like, all right, this one was a little bit harder. And I think it's just mindset, what's going on in life, what's going on with your kids, what's going on with work and things like that. So that's totally normal.
Okay, good.
That's great. That's great. So congratulations. Let's see, Davey, I know that this was your first shred, right?
Yes, it was.
Would you like to share your story and tell us why you decided to shred and what your results were?
Sure. So my big why was getting my husband to join in on me to kind of like be the catalyst to start his own wellness journey.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been pretty awesome because I thought he was going to be apprehensive to everything. I thought he was going to be apprehensive to taking the capsules. I thought he was going to just be like, why are you taking caffeine away from me? Like all this series of like negative thoughts. But even from the first day, it was just like on the first day he went to the gym, and that was such a big deal because a lot of it lately has been the last few months for him with like the stress of work and everyday life. He's just been so beat down and energy, like no energy whatsoever. He would just come home and that would be it. You know what I mean? So he's like moving, going to the gym, we're prepping together. So it's kind of really changed the dynamic of our family too, when it comes to evenings and mornings. Because I feel like I was doing pretty well on eating healthy kick. So it didn't feel like such a big impact to me in that sense of modifications that I needed to do, except like the gluten and the dairy stuff. But yeah, it's just been incredible to see him take off. For me personally, it brought me over a plateau that I've been like struggling with for the last few months. So I'm down 10 pounds, but more than anything, I feel like more than the scale, I feel like I've seen the inflammation like heal within my body. And I've never stopped eating gluten. So I don't know if it's that because I've already cut back a lot on dairy. So it's been interesting to see all of that play out and how I feel like my body like literally like shrunk within the last week. I don't even know how or why, but it was pretty cool.
That is awesome. That is awesome. And I love that you can share that with your husband, right? When your family's on board. I know we have some other people on here who's, they're getting their husbands and their kids and, and when you can do that together, it just strength in numbers, I always say, right? When you've got, I know when I first started eating clean, my husband was not on board and it made it much harder. Now he is, and it definitely makes life easier, but seeing the transformation in them, especially when that they need it and they could benefit from it. It's awesome that you were able to help him with that. And then notice the differences for yourself too, right? It's, especially the inflammation. And, we know that things like gluten and dairy, they are inflammatory foods. Some people can tolerate them, some people can't, but they do cause inflammation in our bodies. And a lot of times we don't really notice that it's doing that until we take it out because we just get used to the way we feel, right? So we get used to being tired or feeling sluggish or, whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden we take it out and we're like, wow, like, look, you don't realize how good your body can feel until you take all of those inflammatory foods out. And then, as we'll talk about, later on with, adding things back in, like until you add them back in, you kind of don't really, make that connection. So it's kind of starting to be that intuitive eater and paying attention to what you're eating and how you're feeling and things like that. That's all part of the journey. So that is wonderful. Congratulations. Does anyone else want to share? I know, Melissa, you were on your 4th shred.
Yep.
Any different changes from the last couple of months?
Yeah, this was the first time I was actually able to exercise during the shred. And so that just, added a whole nother level to my energy, which was great. But my why this time was more, we're headed on vacation next week. And so I just wanted to kind of be in a mental state of kind of going there and not being like, oh, I'm on vacation, I can drink cocktails all week and eat whatever. And I just wanted to feel really healthy going there, just to kind of get out of the winter doldrums that we've been having lately in New England. So yeah, I definitely, what was really hard this past weekend, we sugar. And so when we sugar, we all bring food and we do like, hot dogs and maple syrup. And so that was a little bit harder, but my husband brought like vegan, like dogs, so it was like apple and grains. And so that was really great. So I had that instead. And went out to dinner and I didn't have it had, seltzer and cranberry juice instead. So that was really helpful. So just my mindset isn't I'm not going to the bad stuff, and I'm getting to the point as with each month that goes by, I'm not craving the things that I used to crave anymore. So I'm not feeling like I'm depriving myself of, some of these things. And when I'm off the shred, instead of having 2 cookies, I'll have 1 cookie, and I'm okay with that. I'm satisfied with that. So that's been really great. And so overall, just my whole body and my mindset has just been, a lot better, especially heading into vacation. So
that's awesome. And I love that you shared that because, as I mentioned before, with each shred, it does get easier and easier. And I think it becomes more of the norm for people. Yeah. And you get to the point where when you're off a shred and you're, at a party or whatnot, like you can have 1 cookie and leave it at that. You're like, okay, that satisfied me. Now I don't need to eat 10.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I felt like too, like when I'm on the shred, and I did have, when we were at the Sugar Shack, I think I had a cookie or something, but there was also not that punishment of like, oh gosh, I messed up, I failed. It was like, okay, so I did, and I acknowledge that, and I'm going to move on. So
right. It's that choices versus the cheats, right? You make the choice, you don't regret it, you be okay with it, you enjoy it, and then you move on, right? Yeah. And we all know the more you eat sugar, the more you eat gluten, the more you eat dairy, the more you're going to crave it. The less you eat it, the less you're going to crave it. So the longer you go, or the more you do these shreds, the longer you go without those things, the less and less you're going to crave it, as time goes on. And that's how things get easier, right? So that's wonderful. Does anyone else want to share before we move on to like our next steps? Anyone else want to share? I'm just going to mute. So our next step. So now tomorrow we are on to day 11. So we kind of talk about, what's next. And there's lots of different options that you could do if you're feeling great and this is your first shred and you want to continue on. You can just keep on going, right? There's nothing wrong with continuing with this program. There's, we're eating food, we're eating real food all the time. Even as we all know with the Juice Plus products, it's real food. So you can continue on for the next month, for the following month, however you want to do it, or we have like a Live It plan, which we'll talk about tomorrow. And, this is basically how I live my life. You always want to continue your Juice Plus capsules no matter what, right? We want to take those every day because again, it's that compound effect of taking those every day that you're really going to start to make amazing changes in your health. I go down to 1 shake a day, and then I continue to eliminate gluten. I continue to eliminate dairy, and then mostly, processed sugar. So I may have some honey or some maple syrup or things like that for my sweeteners. But for the most part, you can kind of stay on this program. And what I love, now versus years ago is there's so many options for things like if you're really missing cheese, but you want to still stay dairy, there's lots of options now for, healthier versions of dairy-free cheeses. There's nut cheeses, there's things like that. And, we say not to have those things really on the shred because we're trying to break the habits of having things like dairy and things like that. We don't want to have a lot of lookalikes, but, off shred, I will have things like that every once in a while, or I will have a gluten-free pasta if I want something like that. So, still trying to stick with the gluten-free, dairy-free, is I think a great way to go. If you are really missing something, like you're like, I really need to have cheese every day, I do recommend just adding something in like one at a time. So, you know, instead of tomorrow being like having cheese and bread and ice cream because you've missed all of it for the past 10 days. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, what did I do to myself? And you don't feel good. You don't really know what it was that made you feel yucky, right? So I do recommend to just add in one thing at a time, you know, have it for a couple days and really see how you feel. Be that intuitive and, you know, take note of how these foods are affecting you. Are they making you tired? Are they making your skin break out? Do they give you a bellyache? You know, anything like that. You know, there's also people who shred Monday through Friday, and then they give a little bit on the weekends, right? They might be going out to dinner and, you know, they want to have a piece of that really good crusty bread at the restaurant, or they want to have a glass of wine, or, you know, whatever it may be. You don't have to go overboard, obviously, but, you know, again, give yourself a little grace on the weekends. I know in my family, we have some really certain days of the week that are really busy. So, you know, my husband and I will have shred days in the week where we do 2 shakes a day because we know our nights are going to be really busy and it's going to be hard to get dinner on the table. I know for us, we try to stick with that 6:30 cutoff for eating because I know how much better I feel going to bed, not all stuffed and, you know, feeling full, and how much better I feel in the morning and how much better I sleep at night. So if I know I'm not going to be able to eat until late, I usually pack myself a shake and I'll have a shake and I'll make it a shred day that day. So
Allison, can I ask a clarifying question about that?
Sure.
Is the 6:30 because of that, just because of that reason, kind of not going to bed feeling full? Because I know like 6:30 is completely impossible for us every night.
Yeah.
So I was just wondering, I mean, I'm not a snacker. So once I eat dinner, I'm done.
Yeah.
But I was curious about that time frame.
So it's really good to give your body at least 3 hours before you go to bed to digest.
Okay.
And to give your body, you know, 12 to 14 hours between the time you eat dinner and the time you eat breakfast.
Okay.
And that just gives your body time to rest, digest. You know, you sleep better, you feel better in the morning. It just kind of gives your body that time to reset.
Okay.
And you know, eating and then going to bed an hour later isn't, you know, great for digesting. So
that never happens.
Yes. So, you know, think about it more as, you know, giving your body 3 hours before you go to bed. If you're not going to bed till midnight, then you know, cutoff can be later.
Okay.
And then giving your body that time between the time you have dinner and the time you have breakfast in the morning, you know, giving it that time also.
Okay. All right. I was curious about that time. So thank you very much.
Yeah. And, you know, like Melissa said, she's going into vacation. So, you know, you can hop on and do a shred before vacation because it makes you feel really good and healthy going into vacation. It also gives you that mental clarity, right? And that mindset, that better mindset going into vacation, that you don't have to go in and just indulge all day, every day. And then, you know, shred when you get back, like things like that. So there's lots of different ways that you can do it, whatever works for you. We have a lot of people that shred. We do the shred, you know, every single month, usually the first Monday of each month. So we have a lot of people that will come on and do that 10-day reset at the beginning of every month, you know, and then they kind of stick with it, you know, mostly for the rest of the month, and then have that reset again the following month. That's kind of how we do it too. We shred almost every single month with the group. And if we have to give a little leeway because we've got dinner plans or something like that, then, you know, that's good too. But I always recommend, if, you know, to everybody, that if this is your first or your fourth or your eighth, if you've never done a shred 100%, I always recommend trying to do a shred 100% so you can really, really see how good your body can feel. And then once you know and you kind of get into that groove, if you need to give yourself a little leeway here and there, then absolutely. But I think it's so important. You know, we talk about progress, not perfection, all the time. And that's definitely key. And notice all those little amazing changes that you're making. But as time goes on, if you haven't been able to do a shred 100%, give it that try, right? Give yourself that opportunity to really see how good you can feel. So does anyone else have any questions before we wrap up? So I just wanted to add too, that, you know, a lot of us on this call are part of this business too. And we do this because we love helping people. We love helping people get healthier. We're passionate about the Juice Plus products. And, you know, this business is based off of referrals. So if you know you have family or friends or anybody like that, that you're like, wow, they could really benefit from this program, you know, definitely get with the person that introduced the Shred to you so they can help you, you know, reach out to them or talk to them about it or anything like that. Or, you know, if this is something that you're interested in doing for yourself, again, this is a business. A lot of us do this part-time. You know, we're either stay-at-home moms or some of us are business owners. We work full-time, but we love being able to, you know, share this with other people. And this, you know, that's what it's all about. It's sharing our stories, sharing what we love, sharing our passion, but also making some income on the side, you know, as a little bit of a side business, you know, to bring, you know, a little bit more money into our families, you know, to help out with finances and things like that. So if the business side and doing what we do here resonates with any of you at all, definitely, again, get in touch with the person that, you know, introduced you to the Shred. We have a lot of fun. As you can see, we've got an amazing community that we you know, we support and love each other. And it's a fantastic thing. So, with that said, I know that Amanda, and she reminded me to make sure that I did this. She always gives away a blender bottle to a first-time shredder at the end of every call, one of our new first-time shredders. And Justine is our first-time shredder. You're our only first-time shredder on this call. So I'm gonna have Amanda mail you a blender bottle, Juice Plus blender bottle for you. So expect a message. We'll get your information and your address and stuff like that to send it to you. So
Thank you.
that's awesome. And thank you to everybody else. I'm excited. Our next Shred is the first Monday in May. Let me look really quick. So that is May 6th starts our next Shred. So it'll be the 6th through the 15th. And that's it. Anybody else have any questions? Anything they want to add? No? Awesome. Well, congratulations. Cheers again with my tea. And I look forward to seeing everybody next month. And always, again, stay on the page. If you have any questions, pop in at any time. Share what you're doing. Share your meals. Share your shakes. Even if we're not in the middle of a Shred, feel free to ask questions or anything like that. So it is open 24/7.
Thank you.
All right, ladies. Have a great night.
You too.
See you soon. Bye-bye.